Come right up by your house. That'll be one of the ways. Welcome.
Well, there's.
Welcome, everybody.
Sharon, speak into the microphone.
Welcome. There we go. We're gonna try and start. Sorry, I know I'm a minute or two late. But we have tons to do, so we don't want to dilly-dally. Rachel, I hope there's people online because I really expected more people than this.
Yes, I've got 10 online.
Good, okay. And can anybody online at this moment message Rachel real quick and say, yay, I can hear, whatever. Okay, great. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. We're so glad to see staff and city councilors and all of our neighbors. We're so excited you're here. And so we're going to start with a prayer and a pledge. Let's see. Oh, I'm supposed to remind you, we got a brand new AV system in this room. So, well, you may regret that statement because it means if you're whispering in the crowd and having your own little side conversations, you got to take it out in the hall because it's all being picked up now. So this mic now is more for this room than it is for the online people. I appreciate the mic because I know I have occasionally been deaf myself. So we're going to try and use the mic as much as we can for your comments. But we are going to start with a prayer and then a pledge. Jen Knapp is going to do our prayer. And then Rhoda Goffin is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And we'll go from there.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we're thankful that we could meet together as neighbors and friends and work to better our community and neighborhoods. Please bless us to be in tune and to be kind to each other as we have different opinions and that we can truly work together. We're thankful that we can meet and we're thankful that we have this beautiful world to live in and help us to take care of it and each other. Say this in the name of Jesus Christ, amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the
United States of America
and to the republic which stands
one
one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Thank you. All right, we're going to start very quickly with the first thing on our agenda is the Blue Rock sign. Rachel's going to read a statement. Rachel Breen, stand up, raise your hand. If you don't know Rachel Breen, she's in charge of, at the city level, of our neighborhood programs. She is a tremendous help and we all love her on the board. She's going to read a statement that legal provided for what's going on at this moment. And then we're going to turn the time over to Paul Evans to answer a few questions. We only have 10 minutes scheduled for this. So we'll try to stick to that as close as we can.
Okay, this is a statement from legal and zoning code enforcement. So the Blue Rock Medical sign update. Blue Rock Medical sought a temporary injunction preventing the city from enforcing against the size of the sign or the fact that it is electronic. The court agreed with Blue Rock Medical and issued that order. Blue Rock then filed a motion for summary judgment asking to make that order permanent. The city filed in opposition. The court has not yet set a date for a hearing. But zoning wanted me to tell you that if you feel that the light is too bright or the turn speed is too fast, you can still submit a complaint to code enforcement about those issues through 311. But at this time, they cannot enforce against the size of the sign or that it's electronic.
Oh.
So another update is that in 2018, Provo City signed a settlement agreement with Gibby and Blue Rock about the sign. And in doing so, gave permission for the city for the sign to be built in violation of city code. So a group of citizens in 2019 filed suit against Provo City and Blue Rock with the intent of getting the issue back to the city so they can enforce zoning. And that's what happened in 2022 when the Fourth District Court ruled that the settlement agreement was illegal, the sign is illegal, and it's a public nuisance. Neither of the parties chose to appeal that ruling, and so that ruling stands. And so then in 2023, or later in 2022, Provo City began enforcing on the sign for size, the rate at which the sign changed, the brightness and such. And in January of 2023, Blue Rock then filed for a temporary injunction to prevent the city from enforcing. That was in place until later in 2023, when the court said, okay, you can enforce on brightness, you can enforce on the churn rate, the rate at which messages, but you may not yet enforce on the size or the fact that it's electronic. So in June, Blue Rock asked for the court to rule not to allow any future enforcement on size or the electronic nature. And that's where Provo responded and said, no, we disagree with that as a permanent decision. So that's what's waiting in terms of the case at this point. And you can just see the points that Provo City brings up. Court, you can't tell us not to enforce our own code. So that's to be a simple, straightforward issue. Yes.
Just a clarification, you said that the sign was illegal, but it says this on the statement, it says the settlement agreement was illegal.
Right. And so the judge in his ruling says that the result of the settlement agreement was for the sign to be built. Sign to be built was illegal. The settlement agreement is illegal. It's all not permitted under code. Any other questions? If you want to receive updates occasionally on the Blue Rock issue, there used to be a slide that had my email address. Oh, there it is. It's up there at the top. Okay, good. Okay, yeah. Well, I didn't make the slide, so I was going, that's not mine. Yes.
Did they just go ahead and build it with knowing that it was illegal and
No,
hope that it
no.
would be met?
Remember, Provo City wanted to settle a lawsuit that Blue Rock brought against them. Part of that settlement agreement was Provo City saying, okay, if you'll drop the suit, or we'll all drop the suit and you can build the sign. That agreement was in violation and contradictory to Provo City code. And that's where the judge came back and said, no, that's contract zoning. That's an illegal agreement. It's gone.
The sign, even though in violation of the agreement.
Well, yeah, there's some nuances on all of that. That is, there was an agreement that Blue Rock actually build the sign that the settlement agreement allowed, and there's some lots of interesting variables on that to discuss. But this is the high level overview of what's going on. Yes.
So any sense for timing?
The filing for the permanent or the summary judgment and the response occurred in June, July. So we're, however fast the court moves, probably won't be till fall for a hearing, an oral hearing. And then, of course, there'll have to be a decision by the judge, or he may just decide, no, one way or another, but both sides have requested hearing. And I just point out that the city has been acting in really good faith to enforce their own code now. Even though early they argued against the citizens lawsuit, they've now said, okay, judge made a ruling, that's the way the law is, we're now going to enforce the law. Yes,
So what part of the sign is actually in violation of code?
the size,
Size of the sign?
yes.
So is it an issue of is the code out of date?
No, the code is totally up to date. It's, Blue Rock requested a larger sign than what the zone they had in permitted.
Well, my question is the code out of date depending on the type of the road that's there now, the speed of the
No,
road?
it's still,
Small sign, people don't read it going at 60 miles an hour, you have a bigger sign, they go at
45, well, two things.
but whatever. it is,
Okay,
45.
but the issue is that there are limits that were put into place for the North University Avenue Design Corridor. Those limits are in place. If those need to be changed, then citizens can go to the council and say, we need to change things.
That's what I'm trying to find out.
Right.
When was that? How old is that code?
Oh, the code was first 12 years old, but then Gibby tried to change it in 2016. So
One thing that I remember you brought up before, like you said, it wasn't necessarily the electronic or the bright, the enforced, but because the sign is so large, the other pieces to that then cause some problems.
Well, everybody's going to have different opinions about the sign. And the issue is the size is larger than what code allows. Whether or not electronics was allowed at the time, that's a separate issue. And but the brightness and the churn rate is all under current code that was just changed 2 years ago. So it's all up to date that way.
All right, do you hand that to Rachel, please? We're gonna move right on to the third item on our agenda, which is the Canyons Apartments, is how it's listed on that. And Rachel's going to introduce the process, and then she's gonna hand the mic straight to Rob, who's gonna try and take about 10 minutes to present. I don't know if you have slides or not, but he's gonna try and take about 10, 12 minutes. And I'm gonna ask somebody on the board to time him. And then we'll open it to questions, and we may take all of your questions and then let him answer again for 5 minutes or so. That's kind of the process we're gonna try and follow.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so in the development process, right now, this project is in the review process. So they've had an idea, they've submitted an application, and now it's going kind of back and forth with the city, planning, building, kind of everybody looks at it. And so right now it's in the review process. So what you're seeing tonight may change depending on the review process. If we hear an item early in the process, we have less detail but more resident input because of the plan can be changed. If we're seeing it late in the process, we get more detail but less resident input because they've already finalized their plans and all of that. Just kind of some decorum rules. Please remember that developers are not required to attend neighborhood district meetings. So they're coming here to speak to you. So please be respectful. This is your time to ask questions and express concerns. This is the developer's time to listen to the residents and answer your questions. But please be respectful, ask legitimate questions because this is pretty much your only time to talk.
You have your mic on your computer on.
And so some questions to consider. What are the benefits to the neighborhood and city? What are the potential downsides and impacts? Why is this zone change better than what exists already? A common question, can neighborhoods ask for a development agreement? No. And Provo City staff also cannot ask for a development agreement. If you want the developer to agree to something, you need to ask it in, how can you address my concerns, or how can you guarantee what you're saying? It has to come from the developer for a development agreement. We cannot ask for one. If you still have questions after our meeting tonight, the project slides are available online. Also, contact the city planner. The planner's name, phone number, and email are on your agenda, on the website, and on the calendar. And so that's Nancy that you can contact. Okay, and now I'm gonna turn it over, if it'll work, to our developer.
As mentioned, Rob Reynolds,
Can people hear? Okay, let's do the mic.
It's on the community post.
hopefully I'm not eating the mic here for you, but as mentioned, I'm Rob Reynolds, Reynolds Construction. You still can't hear me back there, Paul?
Yeah, you can go. Yeah,
Is that better?
right up, yeah.
Okay, thank you. As I start off, I'm Rob Reynolds. I have to look at my 10 minutes to make sure how much I burned already, but good. I acquired this property. Many of you probably know it under Devin Durant, who had lived there for a number of years or been involved with a number of years. It's the Hill Place right there on 2000 North Canyon Road. Shown by this picture, this hillside area is what is we're looking to change the zone. This meeting is for a zone change because obviously these are all multifamily.
Hold the microphone closer.
Oh. I'm having a hard time getting it up close enough. I feel like I'm swallowing it. I'm sorry.
It's ice cream cone.
Yeah, it just doesn't taste the same. And so there's multifamily all the way around it, and my goal or thinking is to lower the elevation to match the properties on both sides, creating a separation from residences to the east with the elevation change. With that, I came a while back with a podium style planting, more for a student kind of a housing, which was not well received. And so we've gone back, dropped some of the density as well as dropped a lot of the elevation. We're now, beforehand, we were going for a CMU zoning, which allowed me to go a lot taller. But with the MDR zoning, the height restriction is, I think, 45 feet where they've got these. The current toe of the hill being right here is roughly 53 feet to 55 feet above the street. Plus the house on it right now is another like 27 feet tall. The current structure and design will be, the top height will be at 45 feet. Therefore, we'll be several feet below the existing dirt grade. So we think that'll be much more conducive to the desired result, let alone multifamily rather than the other approach. We can go to the other slide showing elevations. That side, there's elevations. How we've dealt with parking beforehand, we have the elevation. If you look at the white section, almost see a pointer, I guess, the white section that's boxed in the middle there, that's like a parking structure that will service each of the floors. So people can come in, it won't be seen by the street. It'll be all concealed, if you will. So they drive in, they can drive to their respective level, whether it's the first floor or the third floor, pull right in, walk from their parking right into their units. And so we were able to enhance the amount of parking shown to meet or exceed, if you will, the needs of what we see there by utilizing that parking structure. It will be hidden from the view. So from an aesthetic standpoint, you'll see the structure and not a bunch of parking. I don't know how many other things that would address With it, largely, like I say, this is for applying for a zone change to match, as I see it, the existing properties around it. Currently it's zone R18, trying to get it to requesting the zone to MDR to allow it to be contiguous to what I'm seeing is around it, and it's more highest and best use, if you will. Am I staying in my 10 minutes?
Easily.
Okay, anything else I need to cover? Questions? Please, you need the mic?
Yes.
You mentioned that you were going to be taking down the hillside.
Correct.
How deep?
Flat. Right now, I don't know if you're familiar with the property that by it. Right now, it's a hill right next to it. So, yes, you're familiar with it.
So you're gonna take it to the same elevation as Canyon Road?
It'll be, I think,
A little
originally
higher.
planned within, because we have to slope up a little bit to it, like a slight 1 or 2% slope from the street to the.
What are you gonna do with the material?
There's actually several
A lot of
people
good
that
aggregate.
want it. The city has a need for it. There's also another developer, gardener group that would like it all.
And I imagine they pay for it because it's actually good material.
They're not gonna pay for it, but they'll come and get it.
Oh, well, I'd sell it to them because we've got to have it in aggregate in there.
Well, no, well, it should be, with the soil test shows it's pretty good aggregate, but it's kind of hard to, city wouldn't approve me to do a gravel pit out of it, let me put it that way. As many as I've owned throughout the years, but, so bottom line is, no, we've got somebody that'll come and take it, which is, I see it as a big win. I historically owned Reynolds excavating and grading, done a lot of projects around here, including the Temple project, all that excavation, so I'm pretty familiar. And having several gravel pits, and I would love to do that, but that's not practical in this location. Yes,
Yeah, so first of all, I want to say, I think over previous iterations that I've seen come through this, I think it looks great. I like how you're hiding the property. The only thing I'm wondering is, are these owner occupied, are these rentals? What's your plan as far as that goes?
I haven't totally decided that. I have the option to do both, but I haven't totally decided that. At times I struggle with control of condos, and condos become at times challenging, trying to do things. But I haven't decided. It's an option that's on the table. But I haven't decided whether I retain them and keep them or whether I
I'll
would.
just add to my comment. I mean, whether you rent them or owner occupied, I feel like sometimes when someone owns a piece of property, they take better care of it versus rentals. Where I live, there's rental homes, there's people who own it. You can obviously tell who's is whose. Especially if they're like married children of people there, you can tell. So I, just as you're looking and going through this, my recommendation is you at least do maybe some at half or some or all owner, just because I feel like it looks like it's gonna be a beautiful building from what you're doing compared to the big cement wall that I saw whatever iterations long ago. So that's just a recommendation from someone who lives there.
Sure, thank you. I'm sure you were probably at first. I would presume.
He had his hand.
Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe I let you control that silence.
You mentioned that it would be 45 feet high from ground level to the top.
Top of roof.
How does that compare with the other structures on Canyon Road to the south, directly to the south? Those other student
Stadium terrace.
apartments or?
Will be a lot shorter than some and probably be. The current one, if you go right next door, I think it's just 2 stories. I'm not sure. I haven't measured that, 2 or 3.
So,
But
so
go ahead.
Nancy, I don't know if you're taking notes, but these might be questions for the city. I know 45 is the maximum allowed in that. I don't know if you know how tall Stadium Terrace is what they're asking, so comparable. And the one next door that was just, the development agreement that was just approved is for 30 feet tall. So just north of this, immediately next door north is only 30 feet. But keep in mind that the road continues to slope up, and so as far as where we measure from, there's a little bit of give there as far as, and I don't mean give that he can go 5 more feet, I just mean the city, it's gonna have some play in it as you look at it, right? Paul probably remembers how tall is the one on the very corner? Temp Towers.
It's 4 stories.
Well, that I know, but.
No, I think with the total height,
Total
I
height
think
and
it's 6, it's a CMU zone, so it's It could go up to.
It's not 60 feet,
But I remember it was 50 something, so,
50 something.
It's taller.
so
But-
it's
but-
taller than this, but it's lower than this. Does that make sense?
I'll still get it.
So
It's
they're gonna
irrelevant.
be close to each other is really all we've got at this moment.
And I just also wanted to ask about the city master plan. I don't know much about it, but I guess Provo has a master plan.
Yes.
I think many of us in the neighborhood would like to know what is the plan for our neighborhood, because we're seeing one request after another to build where we thought we lived in a quiet residential neighborhood zone for certain kinds of houses. And is there a master plan? Could somebody explain it to us and how this project fits in or doesn't fit in with the master plan for that area?
Okay, I'm gonna ask Nancy to make note of that one. And we'll just give it all to you at the end, Nancy, or at least a part of this. So, cause I agree, I know there's a master plan. It was recently adopted. I do not know, but Nancy or Aaron may know if there's a neighborhood plan for your area. I do not know for Pleasant View specific. So they can answer that. Part of, and that's a good question. I think it's just a reword of one of Rachel's suggested questions is why is this project better than the current R18 that it's zoned? That's what Rob's here to try to convince you. Boyd had a question up front here, or no, you were gonna go back first. Just a second, Boyd.
Sorry. So I actually live at the bottom of this hill that is going away. I'm a little bit concerned. I actually don't like the vision of this plan at all. Because I know that Ryan Salmon, just north of this development, just past, I feel like there have been a lot of bait and switches happening with these lots, where something will be approved and then by the planning commission, and then it will kind of be reconfigured to add more rooms, more apartments, more cars. And it's feeling like we're being kind of choked out a little bit as residential areas. So my understanding with this particular development is that this 100 apartment unit was proposed, denied, and then it moved to an 8-unit, smaller residential areas. It was approved and now it's coming back again as 100 units. And I mean, I think Paul mentioned good faith earlier. This is starting to feel a little bit like bad faith to me, where it's like something is approved, the community can get behind it, but then there's no collaboration, and then we're gonna dump another mega huge one. And I will add just 2 more things. One is I've been working closely with Riverside Apartments over on University Parkway. 400 units, massive, complex. They are not even at capacity. So I feel like people are saying we need more high density housing, more high density housing. I don't know that that is where the need lies anymore with this area. But it seems like that's where we keep building, keep growing. And for those of us who aren't transitory, who are settling in this neighborhood, it's very concerning and disheartening. My question for this proposal also is regarding the parking. You say that you have enough spots. My understanding is that Tip Towers probably also has enough spots, but when students who are trying to save money have to pay for parking spots, they will avoid that fee and then go park up in the neighborhood and park up along the streets because they don't want to have to pay the monthly parking fee. So will these parking spots be charged, assigned to each unit, and it comes with the cost of the unit? But if it's not leased, if it's owner occupied, then how is that managed?
It would be part of the purchase agreement that would own X amount of spots for their use.
Okay, well, I mean, whoever's taking notes, like, as a resident at the bottom of the hill, I'm very much against the bait and switch that has happened here with this development.
I'm definitely not trying to bait and switch, and I could give history, but I don't know the time permits. But
Boyd, and then it sounds like Rachel has somebody online, and then Robert.
Rob, I'm Boyd Nuttall. How are you doing tonight? Hey, this diagram you have there, does this show your building coming right up to Canyon Road? Is that what I'm seeing?
No, there's, code requires X amount of footage away from, it also requires X amount of footage to be within a tolerance of how close you can.
I'm not hearing you, just speak up a little.
That would be a code requirement that we would sit in.
Okay, so the building, does it show us maybe 10 feet off the sidewalk or whatever?
No, I think the minimum on the MDR, if I recall right, is 30 feet. I could be off of here, but I think it's 30 feet. It's at 20 feet. I guess.
Okay, now, I have a couple questions. Lily Mott and I, we both border a canal. And our canal is right out in front of Lily's front door, and it's right out behind my back door. That canal comes all the way down from the canyon, Provo Canyon, all the way down through, is continually running all year long. My question tonight is, on this diagram, I don't see the canal taken care of. Do you know if there's a canal there, by the way?
The only thing that's on the property is the pressurized irrigation that is associated with a water, which will remain. We're getting.
Well, just so you're aware, just on your north end, and coming off of the south end of Garden Villa, we do have an underground canal. I used to swim in that canal about 65 years ago. And anyway, they finally buried it, but when I went down to Provo City maybe a few months ago, because I had a question on it. But there is a canal that comes right down, if I can point it out. The canal just follows this ridge line right through here. And as a builder myself.
On the south side?
Yeah, it goes all the way. It'll come clear across here over onto the west side, maybe 30 feet up from the sidewalk. Right about through here, and then it follows, and this is according to their plan. But it follows and heads out this way and then head back toward the Marriott Center or whatever. Anyway, my question, as a builder, I was never permitted to build on top of an existing canal.
And nor would we. That's a code issue that could be dealt with the code side.
Okay, so here's my question too. You were approved for a 30% grade for the last planning commission with 8 home sites put on there.
Correct.
Now, this new plan that you've got here that I'm seeing, it shows that your building is going to go really close over there to the east side. Is that correct?
No, the east property line is way here, which is, I think, 100 feet off because you have to be a slope of 2 to 1.
Okay, so how many feet are you from the property line over onto the east side down to your first building on the
Are you
east?
talking about from here to the property?
Let me come over here for a second, Rob.
Oh, he's on the, well,
Right here.
the building will be at least you have to meet the total slope. We're gonna have to be a good probably 100 feet of 2 to 1 slope. We'll drop 50 feet.
So what do you think as far as total feet from the back property line, Mickelson, over to your building? Any idea?
100 feet, at least. That's roughly what it'll be.
You think it'll be 100 feet?
It has to be. I mean, I can't, because the toe of the hill, you're sloping 2 to 1 and we're dropping over 50 feet. You take twice that, it's 100 feet.
Okay, so you're gonna keep the same approved slope.
Yeah, the grading plan has not changed ever
Okay,
from
so
the
the
start.
question then that I have is the only question.
Okay.
What are you gonna do about that canal? Cause it's there.
Well, this is the first I've really heard of it. Now, as far as the pressurized irrigation.
And by the way, Rob, I didn't mean to blindside you with that question. I did not.
No, you're fine.
That's not
You're
fair.
fine.
I don't believe you were told about a canal from the owner that sold you the property.
No, I'm not familiar with the canal.
It is something to consider, but I want you to be aware that Provo City will not permit a building on top of that canal.
Nor would I build one.
Right now, your building is kind of pretty close to Canyon Road. And
And obviously, one of the other questions is what would happen with this? If and how that canal goes through, we would adjust the building to meet that criteria. That makes sense?
Thank you.
Rachel has one, so give it to Robin.
Okay, just real quick, we have some comments. Timp Towers do not build to the limit of its zone. There is flood irrigation on the adjacent properties on the east. And it looks like that diagram doesn't show anywhere near a 100-foot setback. And I have a comment from Cheyenne. Cheyenne, do you want to unmute yourself and ask your question or comment?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so from what I understand, I hope I'm getting this right. There were apartments that were planned a while ago. Were they supposed to be were they planned to be student apartments?
The first plan that was submitted was a podium style student housing project
Okay.
with a higher density than what this is.
Is this
yes.
okay? Is this current plan not for student housing then? It's basically just general apartments?
Correct.
Okay. I feel a little silly asking this. I don't know if you know this, but would students could potentially move into this? I kind of forget BYU's policies on they can't.
Yes, I couldn't prejudice against students if they meet the criteria of the agreements.
Yeah. That's I was just wondering about that. I guess I have one other thing to say. I hope it's not too contentious. Someone mentioned this being a bait and switch. I don't feel like that's the case. I feel like I'm so sorry, I forgot your name. The developer.
Yes.
Oh, I feel like he's coming up here, he's telling us the plan, and it was said before the meeting, like, he doesn't have to come to the neighborhood to present this. He's doing it just because he wants to see what the neighbors want. I don't feel like this is a bait and switch. Okay, that's all.
Robert.
Thank you.
I had a similar question, I guess, on the families. I just don't know how you can control that. You say it's for families, which is great. Maybe through, if they were alone, you would have more control if they were families. With who's in it, at least under the city right now, they have to be related, I think. But my question is this, just from the design, if it's for families, where do the kids play? Is there open areas? I mean, it looks like you filled the whole open area with the parking structure.
The parking structure is in the middle, as mentioned, for aesthetics. Yes, we'll provide areas for that. This is conceptual. All the stuff that you're asking there gets developed as we get moved to the next stage. This is a zone request, not necessarily
This looks like almost every inch is covered by buildings.
I'm trying to see if this part of the original plan was left in play because the grading permit is the same. The grading for all the projects that have been the same grading permit. And the need for the grading side of it is right now, being R18, I could go to the very top of the hill. And put what 16 R18 to get to your 4-acre piece. Putting them up, I think R18's height is 35 feet, if I recall right. I could be off a few feet, some of you may know the exact code. Therefore, I would be building structures on the edge of that hill all the way around at 35, whatever the code is with R18. I think it's 35 feet. And so I'm proposing two things. There's a challenge I have with that is some of the water on that pressure in the upper hill is challenging. So by lowering the elevation, it allows for water pressure, allows for supply of those kind of things, as well as a nicer project to develop.
I guess my last comment is just city council when it gets that far. If you're really trying to put families in, there's got to be things for families to do and for their kids, or it's just going to end up a student housing, is my opinion.
Well, one real barrier is usually these single family or apartments, 1 and 2 bedroom studio apartment, are usually not cost effective for students. That's why my previous or first plan that I brought in was there were 6 bedrooms. Therefore, each unit with a kitchen, your cost per unit, and you get 6 students. It's much more conducive. You get down to a studio or 1 to 2 bedroom kind of a unit, then the cost of per unit is kind of not affordable for students, frankly. Traditionally, that's what we've seen.
Okay, it looks like we have a couple more comments.
Just a quick question, looking, I know it's a sketch, you know, basically, but where would you imagine access to the garage? Where to the parking would come from? Would it?
You're coming in off the street and you go underneath it to the structure.
So underneath and then into it.
And obviously turn around for fire and other things.
Sure, thank you.
Okay. Becca's coming.
I'm still just wondering, what is the safety of taking out the hill? What about those people up on the top? Are they going to be, I mean, I just can't understand how that can be safe for them with you taking out that whole hill.
I've spent my life in dirt work. As mentioned, I did the Provo Temple, I did several of the jobs within. When you start going, the actual engineer that did the soils analysis allows it to go to a 1.5 to 1. In other words, for every foot you go down, you have to go out 1.5 with the soil conditions. We've chosen as a basing to go to 2 to 1 because that's way safer. I'd have to get in the engineering couch. Weight goes down, it usually goes down to 45. I'm not, of all the things I'd be worried about from my perspective, with my experience, is the safety of the hill.
But that could be another question for city, is a retaining wall required for 2 to 1?
No.
Okay. There was somebody else, Becca's handing the mic around.
Back in Hawaii, I was president of a condominium association, which was about 99 units. And the problem we had was parking, because only so many parking was allotted to 1 unit. So some of these families had multiple cars, and so they flowed into the community. And so that might be a problem if there's no side parking, you know, for that to happen.
How many parking places you're gonna give per unit?
Well, it depends on the size unit, whether it's a studio, a 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom. But we've got, and I didn't count it myself, I have other slides that aren't part of this that show all the parking, and I don't know if we got those on or not, but based on code requirement, what we've got, and I didn't pay out the number of parking per unit because we're still deciding that. Realistically, the unit count will probably be less than what's listed here when you actually get to the final stages because of space and other things. But they tell me at this stage, you talk about bait and switch, you want to go in for what you see as the most opportune. And obviously everything traditionally will go less than that by the time you get to the final drawing.
So how many do they get?
Well, I right now, if this is the fine understanding what the architect told me, I just don't want to be quoted on it right. I understand there's 2 to 3 parking stalls per unit, allowable for a unit and guests.
It's a lot. A total of how many?
Do you have that sheet, Rachel? I can try to look for it to answer that question.
Was it these floor plans? Cause you had 4 floor plans. Is that what you're looking for?
Okay, 240 parking stalls.
Rob, you had 100 units and then 2.4 stalls per unit, so 240 stalls for 100 units.
There you go.
That's good. And how many apartments? 100.
Max of 100.
Okay, 90 to 100, 240 parking stalls.
Correct.
Any for guests?
That would be included.
They
with the
have
guests.
friends and relatives, and if they're students, they got people coming in and out.
So that's.
Sorry, I have old ears, but what was the deal on students versus other people? Originally, your first plan, it was 404 students.
The
as I recall.
You sound about right. I'd be shooting from the hip a little bit, but there was about the same amount of unit, but each of the units were 4 to 6 bedrooms. So that would give you roughly those numbers you're referring to. Parking actually in that case.
Yeah, Ron, thanks for continuing to visit us here in Provo. And the fact that you have that property and you want to develop it is actually affirmation of what a good place it is to live. So, so thank you for coming down. I just point out that on the drawing you have up there right now, you have a 20-foot setback from the property line on all the way around the property. It's, you have a property line on the outside that's a solid line, and then it's marked as a 20-foot setback that's inside of that as the dashed
Rachel,
line.
you go back up to the conceptual of this. Based on certain requirements of the city, some of them I could keep the original because the grading and other things didn't change. So I guess my question internally, I'm thinking of whether this was the original site plan versus the proposed revised one.
I just point out that this is the only information that we've had as a neighborhood. The floor plan that you showed, that's the first time any of us have seen that. So
The which one was first?
the floor plan that was up just about a minute ago. So we've just only seen this concept site plan. And I just point out that the dashed line is 20 feet off of the property line. Right?
I'm not seeing any measurements to answer that accurately, so
Well, that's why if you go back to the concept site plan, that's the only information that we've seen so far. We have not seen what you just showed.
we've not seen which one.
We've only seen this drawing here.
You mean the one that they show the height?
Well, even there's the rectangle stack that we've seen also, but this shows, yeah, we've seen that, but that's not a site plan. That's just more structure.
No, showing the structure sitting on the side, however.
Sure, I know,
We
but
haven't got measurements shown, but
I'm
regardless.
still trying to
But
say
to
my
answer your-
question. You've
Okay.
got 20-foot setback from the property line. And if you take the same distance to where your buildings are, that's only 40 feet.
Bottom line is the elevations and the location of the properties have to sit with where I have my 2-to-1 slope. And I looked at the plans previous, the ones that were the bigger set, and I know exactly what they were. And so when you, to answer your question, I can only meet code. I just have to meet code.
I know you have to go with code, but when we look at this concept plan, it doesn't have a 100-foot setback from the property line on the east side.
Great, and
Okay.
that could very well be, and really, that's not why I'm here. I'm here for a zone change with a concept plan with the modifications we've discussed. And so obviously, once it gets through this side of it, we'll have a lot of work to be done with.
Right, so,
the city.
and the zone change is great. Provo City has a history of zone changes that have occurred. And once the zone is applied, then the plan gets changed. And whatever the zone allows is what gets built. The city cannot ask for a development agreement. City staff cannot do that. But individual citizens, as we are here, can say, hey, you know, if you brought a development agreement as to what you're actually gonna build, that might make things go better. So I just put that out there.
Sure,
Fine.
and I get
Last comment, how many bedrooms?
studio, 1 and 2 bedroom. I may be able to get a couple of 3s in there, or a few 3s, but they're saying the demand for 3s is not as high as the studio 1 and 2.
Right, those are types of bedrooms. How many bedrooms?
He just said that.
I just said, I'm not.
Okay, so how many total? Not what types of
The
bedrooms.
max, 100 units
100 units, and in each unit,
will be 1
2
or 2,
or 3.
possibly.
So how many bedrooms?
Yeah, what's the makeup of the two? Like, are they all gonna be 2
We
bedroom?
haven't
And
gone
then
to that extent to lay out each floor to each unit, but traditionally, studios and 1 bedrooms are the most prominent because that's what usually the highest need is and they're the most cost effective.
Okay, so
Then less 2.
on your plan, you have 1,000 square foot units and 1,400 square foot units in your stacked tiles approach. 1,000 square foot unit can have 2 bedrooms, easy and 1,400 square feet can have 4 bedrooms. So that's why the number of bedrooms is critical to understanding how many people are gonna be in there and whether or not the parking you envision is gonna be sufficient.
And I guess depends on which engineer you're talking to and how it looks. A lot of times the second bedroom is consumed by a child, has no parking needs. If you have a small family in there, they would have a second bedroom, as all my kids do, 2 or 3 bedrooms. And they have 1 car, and we've got 2.4 per unit. So you're picking on a far swing from the normal, I guess is what I'm saying.
I'm gonna move this on. Jen had a comment, so we'll pass the mic to Jen, and then it looks like Rachel has another one online, not from Cheyenne again. Okay, sorry, I'm just trying to move this along because we are getting to the end of our time. I do still want to give Nancy some time. So Jen?
How many, sorry, how do you access this building? Is there only one entrance and one exit? So are we gonna have a bunch of cars coming out on Canyon Road all the time? Or can they get out and go a different way?
It will be access from Canyon Road, going left, going north or south.
So that's it. We only have one exit entrance basically, and it's all funneled onto Canyon Road. Is that,
Is
can I
that
ask that to
code?
the city? Is that?
That would be a question for the city. Is this a code,
A traffic
number of units or something?
Canyon Road's already.
So,
getting
but
hard.
when it's your turn, make your notes.
Canyon Road's near.
Online, Rachel?
Okay, we have a few comments. There's a serious lack of green space in this part of the neighborhood. So keep that in mind as you're making your project. And then another concern, power, telephone, cable, and fiber for the Mickelson property and the Dutton property comes from Canyon Road. So will these utilities need to be rerouted? And wondering about liquefaction because of flood irrigation, and looks like any soil geological survey would need to take this higher than otherwise water table into account. Someone's asking about a dog park area, if that's an option. And let's see, and then, okay, so where does the grade change start relative to the new slope? And then that's from Bill, and Bill actually wants to make a comment. Bill, if you want to unmute yourself and comment.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Sorry. I'm not sure how this works. I'm not much of a techie. I don't know if we can get a section cut through the new slope. Because one of the things that I saw was the actual building height, the 45 feet. Somewhere I saw that it started at an elevation of 39 inches off of Canyon Road. That would make it almost 48 feet overall height. But is that right, or am I reading that wrong?
No, that could be right. It slopes, you have to slope the water flow around. So I say from Canyon Road to the top could be that, but they go on, how they do the measurement is on your grade. So whatever the grade is set, your grading grade is where they start, or your, if I went on existing right now, my grade would be a -1 because we'd be below the existing grade. So the city requires you to cut it to your approved grade, and then they measure 45 feet from there. Or that would be the max based on a zone change. Yes.
We own 156 lineal feet of property line on the east edge. We sort of center on it between the Curls and the Duttons. What is our existing grade? Was that the 50 feet that you mentioned earlier?
The rough elevation drop will be approximately, as you get to the back, 50 to 50, roughly 52 feet, I think, or roughly 50 feet is what you'll be dropping with the original.
It's your roof.
What's that?
They'd see your roof.
Yeah,
And then where-
you look down, you see the roof, because it's gonna be below your grade.
Not the side.
Where, where does the slope start from the east property line?
It would start from the property line, it would start to slope from there.
Originally, there was like 5 foot buffer or something like that. This one would start right at the property line then, because that's our chain link fence right there.
Obviously, I want to preserve your chain link fence or preserve fencing. I would like, and then I have to work with the city, because I like to make that hillside somewhat of a landscape and usable feature, whether it has trails or what have you on it, but that would need to be worked and agreed through from engineering city.
Okay, we haven't heard from Lynn yet, so I'm gonna let Lynn ask her question. And then I see a couple of others who have commented before, so it's a really short question, not comment.
I'm Lynn Sorensen, and I'm the chair or the lackey or whatever of Pleasant View neighborhood. One comment, one question. One comment is 1 bedroom can easily be 2 students. 2 bedrooms can be 4 students. 3 bedrooms can be 6 students. And my experience, 21 years at BYU, most every student has a car. So to think, oh, 1.5, and certainly if you have a married couple with a child, each of them has a car. So I think you're grossly underestimating how many cars there would be. So that's my little tip for you. And then my question is, at 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, dump trucks, diggers, whatever, how long will it take for that dirt to come off of the hill?
With a commercial contractor dirt remover, we initially had a plan for the needs on the other end of being roughly a 90-day thing. If Provo City wants me to work something for some of the dirt for themselves, I don't have an answer. Maybe it would take longer though, because they don't have the truck power or equipment to make it that fast. But traditionally, 90 to 120 days, I would say, is a general rule of thumb.
That's a long time.
Boy, that's moving. Digging your own house basement, I mean, by the time they started, it was, yeah, we got a lot more to move. But
Okay.
yes,
This lady in red, sorry, I don't know your name.
Hi, I'm Anna. So my question was with the various discussions about parking. It's not on? No, it's on. Oh, it's just not close enough. Sorry about that. Hi. So yeah, there was a lot of questions about parking and concerns about parking and so on. So I had a question about whether or not you are planning to include like bike parking or bike storage to alleviate some of the stress from cars, especially since like if it is for families, there's like Bach feeds and everything like, or those electric bikes that they have little kids on the back and stuff like that. Or if students do move in, a lot of them have their little scooters or things like that. So do you have planned storage space for that, or is it only car parking thus far?
absolutely, we have bike parking, that type of parking being made available. That just enhances the overall parking, but yes, there is a plan for that.
Okay, Pam has a comment, but it's gotta be short. It's time to start wrapping this up. Question or comment? You've got less than a minute, everybody who's left.
Where is the access for large vehicles like garbage trucks, UPS, FedEx, fire engines?
Are you talking?
Especially on the left side, on the east side.
Well, physical facilities will probably be a dumpster recess thing on the east side or on the north side. Fire access and everything else, including through the parking structure, will be on the south side.
Where?
So is this another road?
That's a road that goes into the park structure. This is also hammerhead allowing fire trucks and all the other stuff to turn around. It also is planned for fire suppression. They run a fire suppression system. That a fire truck can come up, hook something and run cannons on the other side.
All right, we have two more
That's
comments.
very close to where the residents will be coming in and out.
Yes,
And at busy times of day, in the morning and late afternoon, you're gonna have a lot of customers coming in and out. Are you planning to put in a signal?
no,
No, not to smile, but I don't know that you're gonna, this is not North Canyon Road where we're inside the complex. And so I have apartments that are 4 or 5 times bigger than this. And we don't have a traffic problem, both in Lehigh, American Fork. And I understand the concerns and I want to address the concerns, but obviously, if I'm investing the money in this to keep it, I want it to run smoothly and effectively. So I want to deal with things. I don't want down the road getting a call from them saying, hey, you got your cars parked out on the street. I'd rather amply plan and supply and prevent it happening now than I would then. So my comment back to you is I'm planning for these items and areas that I would have concern. It's not my first apartment complex, if you will. And this is a lot smaller than the other ones that I have built, and yet probably overall more parked than what they are, but.
Okay. This gentleman has a short.
This is a short statement, it's as long as some of others have talked.
Your name?
My name is D.B. Jacobs. As we know, and I want to be very respectful as I say this. This is the third iteration of Mr. Reynolds' proposed construction in the last year and a half, which I've attended all, from 101 apartments for 404 students of 7 stories, very strongly opposed, to 8 homes approved by the Planning Commission in March. Don't know what happened to those 8 homes in that approved project, to the current 100 4-story apartments. Provo has in file our petition against the first proposal signed by 73 Garden Villa residents or owners, which we forwarded to Mayor Kasusi. This latter iteration will also be very strongly opposed by the residents of the 81 condos in Garden Villa and other residents of our quiet, unique neighborhood north of the stadium on Canyon Road. Let's cut to the quick. Mr. Reynolds almost certainly paid far too much for this hill. Anybody that knows Devin knows that he was good. Obviously, he wishes to recover his investments and hopefully make a profit. We understand that. But the problem is that in order to do so, he would unleash the traffic of all of these people, undetermined number at the moment, plus their visiting friends and relatives 24 hours a day into our very quiet Canyon Road and few short neighborhood blocks of 2000 North and 2190 North. Parking in these few blocks is now near capacity. However, the lack of traffic through Garden Villa enables scores of children and families to safely cross our 2 streets on their way to the swimming pool, tennis court, and our large lawn and gazebo area. There will be absolutely no way to ensure their safety as far as I can see at this point. You're just going to have all these cars driving in and out, one exit, one entrance. Traffic from the one part exit onto Canyon Road and the other 2 short neighborhood streets will lead to problems of going upwards towards the Provo Temple and all the things that are to the east. There's one traffic light, a block and a half, 2 blocks up the street, and that's going to be a bottleneck. We are absolutely speaking for the vast majority of Garden Villa people, and I think the neighborhood, Mr. Ellis probably agree with me, against this threat to the peace and tranquility of our beautiful neighborhood. We will fight untiringly against Mr. Reynolds' latest proposal respectfully.
We will take a poll at the end. We need to wrap this up. I need to, at this moment, we can, you're welcome to stay till 8 o'clock. Rob can do anything he wants. We have to be out of the building, I'm told, by 8. But I'm supposed to let city staff leave about 7:30. So at this moment,
7:15.
oh, 7:15. See, it's even worse than I thought. So I need to get Nancy up here to answer any city questions really quick. And then we may open this back up to, while she's looking up, if you've got a 30-second, go for it.
So you want my mic?
5-second question.
Okay, go ahead. She has the mic here.
So the zone change, what if the zone change happened, what is the max number of apartments that could be built theoretically on this? I mean, not engineering, just like in that zone, what would be the max?
Medium density residential is 30 units per acre.
And how many acres is this?
Just shy of 4.
So theoretically, 120 apartments theoretically could be put there, but that would be the max if we allowed
Correct.
zoning change.
Correct.
So that's what we're talking about.
Right, correct.
So
So yes, so you have to remember that what we are addressing is really just the zone change. One thing that I wanted to address was medium density residential is only allowed for what we define in our code as single family, which is a single family or 3 unrelated adults, regardless of you know, how many bedrooms they have. That's Provo's definition of single family. So, you know, all the other questions about engineering, we're confident in our engineering department that they would absolutely do the best to make sure that utilities and everything were safe, and that's the end of my talk. Thank you.
Now the Oscar goes.
Gotta leave the stage now.
Units, where the old credit union was, how many, do we have any idea what single family versus students is in those? All the neighborhoods?
No, we don't. So like I said, we have confidence in our engineering department, public works, and those things that they would make you know, safe. As we work through these reviews, that we would make sure that it was safe, that the utilities came you know, from the right place, and that everybody still got their utilities and had the necessary things that they need. So is there something?
Yeah, what's the code require for parking spaces?
The code for parking spaces, it does depend on whether it's a studio or a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom, but there's and that's in 14.37.080. But I can't remember what each of those breaks it down to.
So for a single bedroom, it's 1.25, correct me if I'm wrong, Aaron.
1.5
1.5.
per studio or 1-bedroom.
It's 2.25 for the 2-bedroom. And I don't know if studio is different than a single bedroom.
Studio and 1-bedroom are the same.
Same. So that's where they do the math. I understand Paul's concern. If it goes to a 3-bedroom, does that number
3 is the
change?
same as 2. It doesn't jump up again until 4.
So it's still 2.25 for 2 and 3-bedroom and 1.5 for a single or a studio. So there's where, Rob, some of our concern is, and obviously different people live in different size units. And so I appreciate what you're saying about a child not needing a car, but they grow up and different things. So that math will be done when he has a better plan. Keep in mind, this is just a really brief rendering to give you a visual. He doesn't have an actual plan that he's going to city council with yet, and he doesn't have to have a actual plan to go to city council and ask for that zone change. It's helpful, but he doesn't have to have it. So what we're simply giving our opinion on, because city council makes this final decision, is, you know, would you be okay with what you're hearing from the developer here and what's considered in code if the city council says yes to what the developer is presenting? Because whatever he says, once the zone is changed, he will be allowed to go 45 feet in height. He will be allowed to go 20 feet setbacks. He will be allowed, and whatever the hillside is, I don't know those numbers. And as Nancy said, he'll still have to make allowance for all these physical facilities, right? My question would be, where in the process does he have to do is there a geological study required? Where in the process does that have to happen before the zone change or not? And
Engineering usually requires to have that geological study. I think that it was actually done when before he went to planning commission, because that was also a requirement for the grading, and so the geological study has been done.
okay, and then my other question would be, is it in code, does it require a certain amount, because we are hearing a certain amount of green space per number of units or per zone, or?
There's amenities, there's required amenity space that we would be looking at to make sure that you know, like.
And is that a percentage per acre or per unit?
Is it per unit?
So that's actually a good question. The timing of it is the reason for my hesitation. There's a text amendment from our department to adjust those kind of amenity packages, the open space packages on these multifamily zones.
To make the amenities.
So right now it's
more or
10%.
less?
Right now it's 10% of the residential acreage, and that might be changing. So
To increase or to decrease?
To be consistent, so we have to study it with the council. We're trying to put together a amenities menu where people can get to a certain point value, and then so it's a different idea. So it's hard to answer at this point.
Probably not.
Would that create a new one? Will it be affect this property?
That's a good question.
Would that
Text amendment, I guess it depends on when the text amendment.
Depends on the
will be approved.
application. Jesse got his own application, and it'd be the 10% requirement for this.
My other question was, are there any other easements on this property?
I don't know that in myself, Public Works is the one that, you know, keeps track of those. Go ahead.
Can I just confirm that the salmon property just north of this property recently had a zone change to medium density residential
That's
from
correct.
commercial and what it was before?
Yes.
So now this is the second, like just south of another one that got the zone change approved. And it's the same zone designation that
Correct.
he's asking for.
Correct.
Stadium Terrace, is that high density housing or is that?
Stadium
density.
Terrace is,
Mixed use.
Stadium Terrace is, I think medium density residential right next to
Stadium
it.
Terrace is RC.
I thought it.
Okay,
Senior
it's RC,
living.
but then it's, so the Tip Towers is.
Tim Towers is
is-
medium dense.
No,
No,
CMU.
is,
CMU.
yeah, campus mixed
Mixed
use.
use. Okay, so like that entire street then will be completely like.
The campus mixed
high
use is
density.
the highest. Every
Campus mixed use.
campus mixed use is the highest
Highest density.
density.
So it just kind of goes down as you go down the street.
Right, it would go down as you're going
So
down.
I just am curious what happened to the 8 single-family residential units that were proposed and approved and why we can't.
Yeah, that's not something that I can, you know, answer. There goes my music.
So-
I'm done.
But the question was asked about a master plan. Do you know what
Master
it
plan
is?
says that it's residential. It does not, we don't have a neighborhood plan, so the neighborhood plan doesn't drill down to say what kind of,
I'm sorry, someone's trying to take over my zone. So I'm trying to prevent them, but.
So yeah, it just, right now, it just listed as residential, it doesn't break it down any further.
Which medium density is considered residential. Rob, do you want to address the 8-unit thing that is what's currently approved? So it kind of goes to the question of highest, I hear highest and best, and I hear make a profit, and I hear what the neighbors like, what is currently zoned.
Time to address it. The 8 lots, when you put a pencil to it, you can't even make it work, let alone I'm getting feedback that very few people would want to pay for those lots in the middle of a multifamily zone.
Who said that?
Well, I don't know if that is my place to say, frankly, but I have had comments on that. Plus, nobody I've heard talking to marketers and other things were willing to pay even my base hard costs for what the development would be and the cost of the improvements. I would be in the lots hard cost between 500,000 and 600,000. And so it's not a feasible project. So that's what happened to
A
us.
feasible project, like it can't be done. You can't build 8 units.
Not unless everybody wants to donate several $100,000 a piece so that we can get it to a cost that somebody can afford to buy the lots. It's not feasible as to a cost.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes sense. Yeah.
Okay, this lady up front has probably our final comment on this.
Are paying like $400,000.
Dead battery.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, I can, but I don't know if anybody else can.
I just want to say that I don't understand a lot of the things we've been talking about, height, length, all of that kind of stuff. But I do know a little bit about zoning. And I do know that for the 60 years our family has had this property in Garden Villa, it has been protected by the zone for a residential area. And you call it medium density, but if you were to impose that in our neighborhood, it would be more than medium, I can tell you. There are days when I go to the corner and I look left and there may be 3 cars. I look right, and if the light is green at 22:30 north, there might be as many as 5 cars. At rush hour, it will be a few more, maybe 10, could even be 15 if it's a Friday night. To me, the bottom line is changing that zone. The impact that it would have on our quiet neighborhood where we can come and go without concern about traffic. And quite frankly, I have been wondering, Mr. Reynolds, and I say this in all kindness, why you chose a property to buy that was zoned in this way. There are so many properties around the area that would have been a lot easier. And now this is your 3rd time to change that zoning. And I'll bet you live in a quiet neighborhood. Mr. Durant is now probably in a quiet, lovely neighborhood somewhere in Idaho.
In Rexburg.
Rexburg, okay. Rexburg, Idaho. And I want to be in a quiet, lovely neighborhood in Garden Villa. And frankly speaking, and I don't want to hurt your feelings, so I'm saying it with a smile, I don't understand why we should pay for poor judgment in where you decided to build.
Okay, do you want 30-second response to that?
I guess we have a different opinion. I think I'm doing something to enhance and better and make things more available to the people that are in the Provo area as well as in your neighborhood. I'm not looking to, your definition and mine may be different, but I'm looking to invest in your neighborhood, not to, I'm not looking to make $5 and run. If that's the, you're not seeing me do any of that, or I wouldn't even be here. So, and I think a well-planned, well-executed project enhances the neighborhood rather than what I see right now there, which I see as a challenge and a detriment from the hillside slope to dangers to the property on both sides, if one were to slip or because they're steeper than the slope I would present. So that's, I guess we have a different opinion. I'm trying to make things nicer.
I'm
And-
perfectly willing to see your point of view and not quibble. But there is no way that this will not have a tremendous impact on our community.
Okay, we're gonna move on. I appreciate everybody's input, truly, but I'm required time limit thing. And as Rachel put up this lovely slide, your voice does still matter and there's still other ways, and especially because Rob's been kind enough to come this early in the process. He may consider an LDR if you suggested it to him. That has different density limits. Obviously, part of what he's doing is about, there's no reason for any of us to spend time on something that doesn't give us some benefit, right? So the developer has what he needs to get out of this and he knows what that is. So here are some ways that you can make your voice heard. You may email, call your city councilors. You can come to city council when we know this is going to be at planning commission because it's far enough in the process. We will send that same email that you got tonight. If you received an email from Sharon Mehmet or Edgemont neighborhood, I don't know what it would have said. You should really consider signing up with Rachel's emails because she's better at this than I am. She gets paid for this, so she gets it done. I'm not that good. If you got it for me, you'll probably get it for me, but she'll get it done when we have a date for it to be a planning commission. If you'd like to comment on the project before that to city council, you may do that. You can send it to planning commission before that or city council. It's hard for them when they don't have a project to actually attach it to, but you can still, if you want to comment, say the project on Canyon Road at 2000 North, approximately, make sure they know what you're talking about. Make sure they're clear on what your actual concerns are. At this moment, I'm supposed to take a poll, but I've also been told they prefer, what are your top questions for development services who've already left, so they won't hear them. We're gonna make notes and they will hear them. What I'm hearing is, I'm gonna try and do it real quick, and if you have more, we will add them. There's concerns about sufficient parking related to the number of bedrooms. That is in code, but we're all still concerned that code doesn't cover us sufficiently. Open space or green space sufficient to the project to keep it looking nice. I hear you. We have a nice quiet street. So that families want to be there. That's the way we want to word it. What else am I forgetting, everybody?
I mean, some of us are against the zone change, so can we vote on the zone change?
Yes, we'll get there. So, and maybe that's simply a question. Why do we need a zone change? One exit and entrance. Yes, sir.
Concern is the steepness of the slope as it goes up against current landowners' property. And sound like the slope would start right at their chain link fence. And the concern we have is these are people with property and suddenly
Right.
the
You don't
steep
want your
slope
house
is
to go away.
being added right next to them.
Perfect. Kent got it. I saw it. Yes.
I think one thing I hear is just the total increase in traffic in the area is a big concern.
So total increase in traffic is a concern. Yes, sir. Do they hear?
My concern is kind of related to that, but I get the feeling that a lot of the concerns are being dumped on the developer that are problems that exist already because people aren't abiding by what their requirements are in Garden Villa. You've got people who don't comply with the car parking slots. You got more families living in the homes than are supposed to. That's my bigger concern, is that we're trying to dump issues that Garden Villa has and other complexes have on this new developer. And I'd like to be able to distinguish between the two to see where the problem really is. If it's the development, or a combination of issues at Garden Villa and the other student housing where they come around to the neighborhood and park. I don't see if we have existing problems, how that's.
Which I think I hear what you're saying, and just as a side comment, a comment to the developer, what we already deal with, and I've heard this from Pleasant View, several residents, is that because of current student housing that exists in the area, they already deal with, and BYU's did a great job, no parking. You cannot park on Canyon Road, it won't happen. It's just not wide enough. So they go up and they park in Stadium Terrace or Stadium Avenue. And because obviously they're homes, we don't want those to say no parking in front of them. And then they walk half mile to get home. For whatever reason, whether it's insufficient or cost, I don't know, but we hope you'll have more than sufficient parking. I hope you consider that. I would hope you'd consider maybe an LDR zone. That's just a step down. So I'm going to pose 3 questions, and the audience, I'm told, can pose more, but we're already 15 minutes past our time on this. So first question would be, are you happy with the zone change, or do you not want it? Are you in favor of the zone change? Are you in favor of or opposed to the zone change to MDR? We need to ask one way. That's why I wanted to. Are you in favor of the zone change? Because that.
Put the microphone at your mouth, please.
Sorry, are you in favor of the zone change, considering the project that Rob has proposed, but knowing it may change, but only within the MDR limitations?
That's the problem, voting on it without knowing more details is really.
It's an opinion.
Right, it's just an opinion, and you can still tell city council.
Sorry, this is if you're in favor of the zone change?
Are you in favor of the zone change? But before we go there, I want to give you all the questions so you know what your options are. Would you be in favor of a smaller density zone change? For example, LDR. He has not proposed that. That is maybe not even an option. So there it is.
LDR.
LDR is considered low density residential. As you talk about high density residential, that's a whole different number. And as he reminded you, his first project was CMU, which is campus mixed use, which is even higher than the HDR.
What was the approved?
So he's come down. He currently has an R18 and approval to build 8 homes on.
That sounds great.
He could build more than that technically in an R18 zone for that size of the lot. That is the current plan that's approved by the planning commission. I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't have that number in front of me. They left.
And how many units?
I believe LDR is
What's
20
the
units per
amount?
acre.
Credit union was there.
20 units per acre?
How many units?
Paul, do you remember how many units are in
We're
Tim
checking.
Towers?
We're checking.
Thank you. Okay, and are you in favor of keeping the current zoning, which is R18, but keep in mind his 8 homes could become more simply because that zoning R18 is 4 units per acre, so he still could have more than the 8 that he's.
Is that
got
single
approved.
family or is that?
Yes. R18 is single family.
Those apartments or
Attached. R18 is single family detached. Okay, so you got the questions, keep them in your head while Malia looks up the zoning for the LDR. Are you in favor of the requested zone change to MDR?
Sure.
Yes.
I don't know.
Okay. Malia, do you know that number yet for LDR? What is it?
Yeah, so for an LDR, you can have a max of 12 units per acre, but no more than 6 units to one building. So it would be like townhomes probably.
Right, so they're
Gonna be
more
higher than
detached,
that.
it's not one
So
mass.
this is, yeah, so MDR is what, 30 and then LDR is 12.
That's gotta be higher than that. Because BLDR goes up to 6.
LDR is 6
It
or
goes up
7.
to 11. Goes up to 11.
That's where the code says.
Yeah, she's going off the book, I'm gonna believe her.
So
We dealt with that already.
Okay, so keep in mind, you can make that request. Rob has the right to ask anything he wants on his property.
He's about 4 acres.
Oh, yes, and you should only be voting on this if you live in this district, which is the northeast area of Provo. Sorry, Rob. All right,
All District 1.
all District 1 may vote on this. That's how they're doing it now.
One of the three.
No, I don't care. You can vote in favor of all of them if you like all of them.
That's my
This is just an opinion poll. This is not an election. Okay, if you are in favor of a zone change to MDR as presented by Rob, raise your hand. I've got. Let me count people.
5.
Okay, we'll go with 5. Okay, if you would be in favor, more favorable, we have no project.
You
Yeah,
you gotta get the opposite side.
What?
How many people are
Oh,
against?
all right. How many people opposed to?
had 2 for it on Zoom.
So add 2 to your count, please, Becca.
It's
All right.
against.
This is how many are against?
Is
This
it just 3 different in
NPR.
favors, which covers the against, or?
I'm with you, whatever, their hands are up, count them. Anybody opposed to the MDR as presented?
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
14,
14.
and then online.
Online.
Okay. 19. So I heard. All right. Anybody who might be in favor of a smaller zone, would you please raise your hand? That's 12 to 15 units per acre.
11.
Any online?
Was it?
No, wait, 1 online.
What is this?
Also
This is just,
15
if
from
you
lower
might be in
density.
favor,
Like
Rob
12.
has no obligation to
This
go
is
that
donating
direction.
money For
This
his,
is just giving him
his
some.
space.
Is there any, oh, there was a comment made, Rob, so I'll vote on it. If you might be more in favor of this project as the city changes their green space, open space zone, if you might be open to, and you don't even have to answer, but if you would all be more in favor if the city or if Rob agreed to more open space or more green space allowance. Sounds like the change in text, he would not be required, but if he would be willing, would that change your mind? Raise your hand. Okay, well, that's what I want. We got 1.
I'm always for green
2,
space.
3.
Could be 2.
Okay, going once. Okay. All right, and everybody in favor of no zone change with the approved project of 8 houses per acre, please raise your hand.
1 online.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
So in favor of no zone change.
Yes.
Yes, we already did this one. Opposed to
You
the
said
project.
opposed.
It's kind of the same
It's the
thing.
exact same.
Yeah.
I
I
just-
just- I do have-
It's funny. Okay, all
And
right,
then.
all right. Add another
Can I
one.
raise a
Raise
hand
your hand
either-
again.
Wait, is this again for the no zone change?
No zone.
I just put the same number who was against.
I think it was
10.
10.
All right,
I think I counted,
I-
but can we get a count of who's in the neighborhood? So we have a total, so we know how many, like
Good thinking.
percentage, how many out of.
Raise your hand.
Raise your live in this
Live in the
district
district.
neighborhood, raise your hand, please.
raise your hand if you live in the district.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
You live in the district back there, Melanie. Raise your hand.
What's,
20.
what's Garden Villa zone?
5.
25 online.
Same thing, right?
50 total.
Wow.
Density
But
residential.
it's the same as what you're looking for.
Right,
That's
so the
what I
question
get.
is what's Garden Villa's on?
It's residential.
But Garden Villa is,
Oh, it's,
Yeah, it's
yeah, it's definitely.
something. I don't know what that was.
Well, no, you can ask the question.
It's R2PD.
so
I think I'm in the.
what's the difference between that and the medium density?
I don't know, because this is called Pro Zone, and so it kind of gets its own little, when they created it, it got all its own little things. You'd have to go to
How many
that.
total units are in?
I don't know. Yeah, we'll have to have staff look that up and maybe ask it at planning commission, so we have that information. Okay, yes, we have to move on. So Rachel is gonna read an update real quick on Mohawk Lane water line. And then she's gonna read about the traffic study on 2320 North. And then she's gonna read about the Quack car wash statement, and then she's gonna read about Just read, Rachel, go.
Yeah, there's so much. Okay, just real quick, if you live really close to this proposed development, you will receive a postcard in the mail when this goes to Planning Commission and City Council. But we will be sending it out in the newsletter, or you can check the website or social media. Also, Paul's question on why he hadn't seen those plans before, they were just turned in today. He just applied for the concept plan today, so that's why they hadn't seen those plans earlier. Okay, here we go. Update on Mohawk water line. Public Works' plan is to continue to monitor the road condition and make sure that it remains functional and safe. There is currently no funding for the replacement of the water line in Mohawk Lane. Public Works evaluates their funding priorities every few years to set up new projects, and Mohawk Lane is on the list for consideration. So in other words, nothing is in the works for right now. They don't have funding for it, but they will be monitoring it. For our next update, this was a traffic study on 2320 North, 750 East. And it's this area right here. And it's classified as a local street. Crash data in the last 2021, 2023, 0 crashes reported. That's just some definitions. We'll pass that. And this is where they had the device to monitor speed and volume. So with the speed, the average speed eastbound, 23 miles per hour. The speed limit is 25. Eastbound average is 23. Westbound average is 22. The 85 percentile, meaning 85% of people are going this speed or lower, is 28. Eastbound, 27 westbound. There were the highest speed recorded eastbound was 51 to 55 miles per hour. And westbound, the highest speed was 31 to 35. So I don't know what's happening eastbound that person, and it was only one person going over 50 miles an hour. While westbound, there was 37 that were in the 31 to 35 range.
That was me on my bicycle.
Oh. So as far as volume, about 456 vehicles per day, about 19 vehicles per hour. The summary is, again, 0 crashes. Overall average speed is 23 miles per hour. The overall 85 percentile is 27. Average is 38 vehicles per hour, or 912 vehicles daily. Possible solutions: provide speed information to Provo City Police Department for traffic enforcement, and to determine if 750 East and 800 East need yield signs. So if they want to put some yield signs up there. But this is who you want to contact. This is Traffic Manager Vern Kiesler. Phone number 801-852-6783. Email vkiesler@provo.org. And I will send this information in the newsletter. We'll also have it online. So if you're in favor of those yield signs, if you definitely want him to make sure there's more patrolling on that street, please contact him. Oh, question, yes.
You're sure this is 2320 North?
Well-
This is the very residential street that doesn't lead anywhere? Are you
Well-
talking about 2230?
Is it this street? Is this 23? I'm not familiar with the street. I'm just reading the slides. Does this look like that? Because I might have made a typo. Does that look like 2320?
It says 2320.
Oh, does it say that?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Let me see if,
Up from Rock Canyon School.
yeah, let me see. Okay, that's pretty much the same picture. Okay.
Amazing.
Okay. Yeah, I'm a amazed that person got up that speed on that little road. Okay.
Late for sure.
Yes, that was it. Okay, here we go. Update on Quack Car Wash. This is the one right by Will's Pit Stop. So the planning division has been waiting since April 1st for the applicant of the proposed Quack Car Wash to submit revisions to their concept plan to show they follow the North University Avenue Riverbottoms design corridor criteria. You know how all those buildings have to be kind of the same color and everything? So they have to submit a new plan showing that. They have not submitted any new plans, and the city asked for it April 1st. So if they ever do submit them, once the revisions have been submitted and reviewed, then the zone change, conditional use permit, and concept plan will go before the planning commission, and then the zone change will also go before the city council. But the dates for these meetings are not determined. We don't know because they haven't submitted their new plans yet. So if they ever do submit their new plans, now planning is wondering if they're giving up on the project because it's been so long. Yeah, because it seemed like it would be a simple color change or materials change, but they haven't submitted anything, so.
We didn't discourage it.
Is this?
Said 90%, over 90% were against it, so.
How long they could?
They're gonna.
There is a, I think usually it's like a 6-month time limit. I'll have to double check with the planner. So if they do submit a plan and it goes to planning commission and city council, we do encourage you to attend the meetings or email the planning commission and the city council. But again, we're not sure if this is even going forward at this point. It's been so many months, but they might still send it. But that's kind of where we're at in that project. We're not sure what's happening. We're in a hold right now. Okay, and then update on the proposed apartments project on 4878 North University Avenue. So the developer is proposing an ordinance text amendment to the high density residential zone to increase the maximum density and increase the building height from 55 feet to 75 feet. So they are requesting that now. That has to pass before they can do their zone change and general plan amendment to build it how they want it. It's a 6-story, 262 unit apartment building. So that's kind of where we're at now, that we're waiting. So that zone change and general plan amendment is on hold while they're trying to pass this ordinance text amendment, increasing those maximums. So the Neighborhood Advisory Committee has discussed putting HDR, high density residential, on the site in the upcoming Northeast Neighborhood Plan. But the planning staff has told the developer that they need to reduce their project to align with the current HDR criteria and either revise their plans or withdraw the application. So planning has told them, your ordinance text amendment that you want hasn't passed yet. So therefore, your plan that you have for this is against code. You need to change your plan. So right now, that developer is on hold. And we're not sure if they're going to revise their plan or withdraw their application or just wait until this ordinance text amendment passes.
Do we know when that text amendment is going to be discussed?
That is a good question. I don't think it's been, let me check really quick. Let me see if that's. Let me see. Let me look for that. And while we're looking, let's go to public comment. Oh, sorry. Yes.
What is the Neighborhood Advisory Committee?
Who here is on the Neighborhood Advisory Committee? No one? That's the committee that's helping to create the Northeast Neighborhood Plan. Is anyone here on that committee?
Well, Bonnie is online and she's
Oh.
on that committee.
Oh, okay, so Bonnie is on it.
Oh, Angela, I believe Angela Marek. I don't remember who else.
Okay, so it's area residents. I think it's what, like 3 neighborhoods? Is it North Timpview,
Sherwood Hills.
Sherwood Hills and Riverbottoms?
River Woods.
River,
I don't know the difference. I'm sorry.
Riverbottoms, but we asked
if Everyone is Riverside north.
might be included in.
okay, so yeah, so that area, it's a group of citizens that work with the planning department to create the Northeast Neighborhood Plan.
Thank you.
So yeah, that's what the Neighborhood Advisory Committee is.
Who
You have a
decides
question?
which neighborhoods get to have an advisory?
So they're starting.
I think Pleasant neighborhood
I agree.
very much needs one because we're getting
I agree, and I would love for
developed.
every neighborhood in our area to have one. The city is working on this, and this is where they decided to start, was with these 3 neighborhoods. Depending on what comes out of it, I would love to just kind of start adding our neighborhoods as we start going south. Because 1, I think it's taking a little too long. And 2, like you said, as we see projects, it'd be nice to have some areas called out and say, this is what is expected. And as you get involved, you'll know that maybe you don't want to buy there because you don't like what's expected.
We heard today that we don't have a neighborhood plan.
We do not for your specific
So
neighborhood.
that leaves us more vulnerable.
Correct. Correct. We're open to the general plan at the moment. Is that all, Rachel, or are we moving
Yeah,
on
I'm
to?
trying to find that other information. That's all from me. So if we want to go
Okay.
to public comment.
There is a comment online.
Oh, let me see. Yeah, it looks like Rebecca. Sorry, I got too many things open. Rebecca, do you have a comment? Do you want to unmute yourself?
Okay.
Yeah, maybe she was.
All right. Rebecca. Okay, it looks like it's gone away. Malia, you're next. This is technically our public comment period, but the mayor is asked to have Malia present something for council. I'm sorry. She doesn't work for the mayor, she works for the city council. They're 2 different units. Don't get the 2 mixed up. Okay, yes, in our city. Go ahead, Malia.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, everyone. I don't think I've been to this district yet. I've been to a couple other ones, but happy to be here. My name is Malia. Like Sharon said, I'm a policy analyst for the city council, so I just help them draft code, do research, get feedback. So that's kind of my role, just as a quick introduction. In our work meeting yesterday in the council, and you can go on YouTube and listen to that, we had a discussion about parking in front of mailboxes throughout the city, but specifically the impetus for this was around Timpview High School, as the parking there on the streets and in front of people's homes has gotten to be kind of a stress for neighbors. So we did some preliminary kind of research and options looking into that and what we could do to come up with a solution for that, and talking to our parking staff. And we came up with a couple options, which is we talked to the US Post Office as well on what they suggest and looked at other cities around Utah. Other cities in Utah ban parking by mailboxes within 10 feet on each side of the mailbox. That is what the post office also recommends, so they can get their car in there, pull in, drop the mail off and leave. Other cities in Utah have the 10, some have 15 feet on either side, and they do it Monday through Friday between mail delivering hours. Other cities do it 10 feet on either side 24/7. So every day, night and day. There's a lot of options. We also said we could do it citywide, or we could do it just in a certain neighborhood or just in a certain geographic region. So there's a lot of options what we could do. The council, this first meeting was really just to get the kind of council feeling to see if they wanted to keep going forward with this, or if they had an immediate thought on what they wanted to do. Their thought was, we need to do something, but we also want to get feedback from the people who live there. So here we are tonight. So I know we just sprung this on to you. I know it wasn't on the agenda, but we just talked about this yesterday in council meeting. So please feel free to reach out and email the council if you have additional thoughts. But with that background, if you have any questions or initial thoughts living in this neighborhood, please let us know now.
Is this for freestanding mailboxes on a post
Yes.
by the road, not attached to a home?
Not attached to home, so the mailboxes that are like in front by the sidewalk in front of the home. Yeah,
So is this like all day long? Like I couldn't park in front of my house all day long, basically.
8 to 4 is what they
Well,
were.
it depends. She said that there are some cities that have 24 hours.
some cities do, so I think West Valley
Right, so
City
I'm
does
just saying, like, if
24/7.
Daytime, your mailman can come whenever.
Yes.
Cause I got 11 kids and we've got 8 drivers, so there's no way, and I got 8 cars. Where am I supposed to put my cars?
Oh, yeah.
So I've got a problem.
That one doesn't work. I lived right by Timpview, and this was before they started construction, and we still had, our mailman wouldn't deliver mail, and like, he got mad at us because there were always people parked on the street, because we were just right down from the tennis courts, and so we had students parking there all the time. So I can't imagine what it's like right now, chaos. So I would be in favor, like, those areas that are most affected by Timpview students parking there, I think it would be really helpful. Like, we would do things like put out the garbage can as students, just so people couldn't park there, because everyone was always blocking it. So I feel like I would limit the geographic area, but I would be in support of it.
But next year ought to be a little better. They are.
It should be, but even this was before the construction started. We had problems with students always parking on our street.
And I will say the council's also considering maybe putting a sunset on it, so we say it's like this until Timpview has a parking lot again and then it goes away. So we're really considering all options right now, we don't have one that we're asking your specific feedback on, we just wanna get ideas and have you start to think about it, and if you're like, actually, this would work, please let us know and give us feedback, cause we're trying, I will say, we're trying to get something in place before school starts or right after school starts, so that way it's not like school starts, students are used to it, and then we implement it.
Do it after.
But we recognize that the timeline of that is quick, so, but we wanted to come to you, so. if
So
anybody else-
you're looking at creating a code for the whole city or just like a neighborhood parking program? What are we thinking?
Either,
Okay.
we don't know yet.
Is there an option, Rachel, to put this on Open City Hall? Because since it wasn't on the agenda,
I know, we just talked about this yesterday in the
People are here.
meeting, so it is.
There was an email that got sent out.
Oh, was there?
City council and was talking about it, so I already knew about it.
I didn't get even.
Well, that's great, but if we could put something on Open City Hall and advertise it, I'd be curious more to hear. I'm a little surprised that the federal government or the mail people haven't created their own code that we have to live by at this moment.
They do have a code that if the mailbox is blocked, they will not deliver mail.
Which is why we didn't
Which
get
is
our mail
very-
delivered.
Oh.
That
And they
is
told
very-
us, they came and told us, we're not gonna deliver it if your mailbox is blocked.
That's why our intern did a lot of good work on this, and he contacted the post office, and they said, yeah, it should be 10 feet on either side minimum. They would like more, but then essentially there would be no on-street parking.
The city council email that came out was suggesting 15 feet on either side.
10 to 15.
It said 15 on either side.
So,
And
so there you go. If you'd like, right, for most of us, some of us, that's my front yard. And I guess, I mean, part of this would have to be cleared up, whether it's your driveway counted as part of that. If your box is right there at the edge of your
Yeah,
driveway.
this current code, you can't park in front of your driveway either.
Right.
So.
So anyway, it sounds like, I mean, we aren't going to accomplish anything here with this at this point.
Yeah. Don't worry, guys, got a solution.
So, I just want to let you go home as soon as
They don't,
possible.
sorry.
Yeah, it
They
looks
don't
like-
walk anymore. They have to be in their post trucks.
I think this just depends on where you live, because I know.
Yeah, 'cause
I have mine attached to my house and I've never had a problem, but.
Yeah, in Joaquin, most of the post boxes are on the side of the house, so they walk and deliver up to the house. Some neighborhoods have like the joint mailboxes where everyone's mailboxes are together, and then some just have the mailbox out in front.
So Malia, my question for you would be, what are the chances, maybe your intern calls and asks, of getting all of your mailboxes attached back to your house, so they have to.
We
walk
actually,
all-
when we moved in, it was attached to the house, and since
Yes.
we were new owners, we had to put it on the street.
So
So
there
the
is.
city made us like, so if you're grandfathered in, it's on your house, because a lot of the houses in our neighborhood were, but then we had to move it on the street once we moved
And I'm
it.
wondering if that's a city thing or a
The postal
postal thing.
service.
Yes,
The
it's
postal
probably a
service.
postal thing, so we have no control over that.
But it's not automatic. It's based on their routes when doing, so in our neighborhood, well, we're right off University Avenue. Built new home, I can put my mailbox right on the street. My neighbor across developed the street down to the end. And the postal service required them to put a central
Just a
box.
center box, okay. It looks like our two school board members both have a comment, each have a comment. Yes.
I agree that this is an issue actually, and I think it's an issue all over the city of Provo. I have been ticketed for parking in front of a mailbox in Provo. When I first moved here, I got a little ticket on my car and I paid it. I thought, well, that's new, you know, because the other states I lived in didn't have that rule, but I thought, well, it makes sense if your mailman can. Anyway, because in other places I've lived, everyone just had a slot in their door. So literally your mailman shoved your mail into your house. So I agree that this is an issue. I would say I think it's important to, if you're gonna do something, to have the community's input, but then also I think it would be really tricky to roll this out after a school year has started. I mean, bless their hearts, my own children included, they're like benevolent dum-dums, those kids driving their cars, you know, some of them less benevolent than others, but they're trying, but also like they make choices. And so I just think clarity is kindness when we're dealing with our students, some of whom have had, you know, some of whom aren't thoughtful, but some of whom are trying really hard to figure out where to park their car to get to school. So I think that's really important that we're reasonable around that, and also that families who have a lot of cars, like I know in some neighborhoods, there's a lot of rules about where you can't park your cars, and so I guess I would just say, let's just be really clear and get as much input. I know the time is tight, but I think if you rush this decision and it's a poor one, the unintended consequences could be serious.
We do have a lot of new parking that will be happening this fall, yay. One of the things we will probably be taking the south or the northwest corner of Timpview and making that our new construction, because we want to start on the softball field this fall and get that, so we're not out of compliance anymore for that. So we will miss some, but we have the new parking lot that's up by the Thunderdome that's open now, and we will have a new parking lot open, and while we are going to be working on some of the other construction. So parking should be better this fall, but it is still a problem. We still want to make sure, you know, have the kids park in our parking lot as much as possible. And if we need to, we can also work with the church around the corner like we were doing and shuttle our teachers. They were really good about working with us last year doing that. So if we're still having problems and needing more space, we can work and look into doing something like that again.
And some residents have put up their own no parking signs, and so that's a little bit problematic when those aren't actually city no parking signs. So I just think, again, clarity and consistency throughout the city. I think it is complicated to be like, you know, I'm 17 and my brain isn't fully developed. Is this over the line of where I can park and not park? So for me, I would say, make it consistent throughout the city.
That's why BYU fans put things out in front of their house.
Yeah.
They can't do that legitimately.
Is your construction still gonna go to 2029? Is that what it's looking like?
It depends on whatever the bond passes.
Yeah, if we can fund it, right? But right now, like, we have to do that softball field. And if we don't get sod laid before like October, it won't be able to be played on in spring.
Okay.
And so that's kind of newer information, I feel like. And so in order to get that timeline, some of the construction trailers now move out into
Okay.
what I thought was going to be open parking.
Just so you know, whatever we do decide, parking enforcement always gives warnings for the first couple weeks. So those kids, like probably a swath of kids would just get warnings. And now if they do it a second time,
Right.
then they would get the ticket, like their license plate, but they do try to be really careful with.
Yeah.
So.
Do you send anything out to the parents before school starts and just saying, hey, parking is limited? We do encourage those that do live close to walk.
Bike,
And
ride,
that's something
yes.
I can encourage Momi, the principal, to send out to
Yes.
parents. prior. That we can
Okay.
I just have a couple comments. The parking that the city council has tried to do or put into place in the last 7 years has been a failure. They did this in South Provo, where the streets are really narrow. They can't enforce it. They just don't do it. And so my advice is don't do something unless you have a plan to follow up on it. And trying to rush this is ridiculous. It's just been the whole parking, you can't do it citywide because every street width is different, every area is different. I'd lose a lot of people will lose their whole yard if they, front yard if they did this based on the size of their home. And so even when they try to do it specifically, my only recommendation, since the school members of the school board are here, is do what you should have done in the first place on the Edgemont Elementary. Put your parking over there. No, not for the elementary, for the high school.
Yeah.
Take that big field
Oh,
and turn that into, because, you know, you replace an elementary school and you ask for bond and you ask for money to build this school that's been a disaster building project where you could have sold that property and recouped a lot of the money. Well, that's passed. Use it for parking. Go put a parking lot over there for the high school students.
Okay, so we're way out of time. Did you have a last comment?
No, that's it.
Okay.
Just please contact city council.
That's, yeah. So again, contact city council. We're gonna ask Rachel to put something up on Open City Hall. I would say the city needs to be willing to paint something red if that's the direction they want to go. And I know they've moved away from painting red to just cute signs occasionally. So go to Open City Hall, make your comments, all of them. Keep it civil, please. And thank you so much for coming. This is the open public comment, but I'm hoping really nobody has a public comment at this moment. Anybody? You got
Not to
30 seconds?
discourage anyone.
Right. Right. If you came only for that, then speak quick. All right? Thank you for coming.